Hey guys, it's Liv. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today I want to discuss something regarding the behavior of internet audiences and sort of how they operate. So let's get into it. As a proud user of TikTok since 2019, I've become well versed in the user behavior of its billion plus users. I think you can easily split the TikTok world into two categories. The first category being people who are on there to be content creators or influencers. And the second category being the content consumers. These are the people who are just on TikTok for entertainment purposes. They're not really there to be creators. And yes, there is some overlap between those two categories, but to be simplistic, let's just continue working with those two categories. So, within the content consumer category, I then believe that there are two subcategories. Subcategory number one, these are the nice, normal people who are on TikTok. They're just kind of scrolling, getting their entertainment for the day. And maybe sometimes they feel compelled to leave a comment, but if they do, it's probably something nice or supportive. And maybe they are leaving their opinion that is contradictory to the creator, but mostly they're pretty chill and reasonable in their thoughts. And unfortunately, we do have a second subcategory of people where their primary mission on the internet is to hate, troll, and pretty much make everyone miserable. Now, let's look at a hypothetical scenario to see the difference between the behavior of these two subcategories. Let's say we have a content creator who is walking and talking about how much they like bananas. They love the taste. They are praising the snack for being a great on the go option since it doesn't have to be refrigerated and it already comes with a protective peel so you don't have to put it in a bag or anything like that. It's just a great on the go snack. Let's go with that. A category 1 person might watch this video and they may agree. A different category 1 person might watch this video and disagree. But when they disagree, they just keep on scrolling. They don't seem to be too rattled by the fact that someone has a different opinion than their own. Now, the second person, the troller, the hater, might see this video of a creator raving about a banana, and if they even slightly disagree, they're going to pull up in the comments and say something negative. They might leave a comment that says something like, wow, supporting a fruit that has a long history of labor exploitation, hard pass for me. We have all seen comments like that, let's be real. So I feel like this second category of people make up from anywhere from 5 to 12% of the internet. I was really trying to put a number on it. I started thinking maybe it's like 1%, but I think it's higher than that, unfortunately. Because when you go on TikTok and you see the number of negative comments that aren't even very rational, the number is pretty high. So let's take this rough estimate of 5 to 12% of people who are on the internet to hate and troll. I do believe that their effect on the zeitgeist is disproportionate to their numbers. Because the haters in category 2 have such intense opinions, they have the ability to sway the category 1 folks into a more moderate version of their opinion. Let's revisit the banana scenario to depict this. A normal category 1 person who, feels pretty neutrally about bananas. They don't love them, they don't hate them. But over time, as their For You page has all these bananas on there, let's say, if they're seeing negative comment after negative comment about bananas, their feelings about bananas more than likely are going to get swayed towards the negative. Now, they might not be on a banana hating crusade. They might not run around screaming that they hate bananas, but they were affected by the category 2 folks. And the interesting thing is that these more reasonable people don't even realize that their opinions are getting swayed. It almost happens subconsciously. Now, I'm just using bananas as a light, non-polarizing topic, but I think we can all imagine where this might get us into trouble, aka opinions about real human beings, about politics, events happening around the world. It seems like we are more divided than ever. And so this process of these category 2 haters having such intense opinions that they are swaying the more neutrally minded people, I believe is how bad ideas and negative opinions can spread like a virus. And I'm not saying these ideas and opinions are always fake or untrue. Sometimes they are truthful. And sometimes the opinions are more subjective, and the lens that people are looking through at it becomes negative. So applying this to real creators on social media, I think we've seen so many different scenarios where people have gotten canceled. Someone who started out being liked by the public ends up being hated on by thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions. I recently watched this Jubilee video where Gabby Hanna, a very famous person who rose to fame through Vine and YouTube, warns influencers and content creators that they need to save any money they make through these endeavors because you never know when it's going to end. Let's take a look at the clip.
Not relying on that to eat then. You're not relying on it for your money then.
No, and that's, if
not like that for
anybody's like,
everybody.
side note, if there's any like influencers out here watching, like young startups, save your money, like retire, like you might get canceled, whether you know, whatever, just save your money, invest well, and retire early.
And she warns about this due to her own personal experience. She says that back in the day, she began to share more about her emotional vulnerabilities online. And when she began doing that, she was praised by her audience. But then over time, she almost turned into this meme where people were weaponizing the vulnerabilities she shared against her. So this is a scenario of someone, one of the OG creators who used to be exclusively praised online, and it turned into just this wall of hate against her. And from the content consumer's point of view, sometimes it seems like we just wake up one day and someone just is disliked by everyone. You're kind of like, they kind of fell off. What happened to them? And there are some scenarios where someone might do something arguably horrible and end up getting just downright canceled overnight. But I really think in a lot of these scenarios, it happens slow. We think the internet is so quick, but you have to remember that a unified hate towards someone usually has a genesis. I believe that this seemingly overnight flip on someone can start with one person's opinion and spread slowly to other people until it becomes this snowball effect and the hate compounds and compounds, which then spreads like wildfire and begins to pollute everyone else's opinions. And this has probably happened to you without you even being aware of it. Ever have a situation when you're on TikTok and your opinion is pretty neutral, and then you go to the comment section and it's filled with negativity, and then you feel yourself start to gravitate towards that negativity as well? Whether you've noticed this in yourself or not, it's probably happening to you. And I don't say this from like a preachy standpoint, it's just something I've noticed in myself while I'm scrolling. And I assume it's happening to other people as well. And the thing is, I actually don't think the inverse of this situation holds true. I think the negative opinions have more of an effect in dragging your own opinion down than positive comments have in lifting your opinion up. So me thinking about this led me to stumble onto something called a negativity bias. A negativity bias is the propensity to attend to, learn from, and use negative information far more than positive information. Simply put, negative information has a greater impact on the way you think than positive information, which, if you go into it, was probably helpful when we were cave people in the caves, in the woods, defending our food from bears and stuff. But since 99.9% of the time our lives are not at risk while we're scrolling TikTok, this cognitive bias is unnecessary and harmful to our outlook on the world and culture itself. Let's take a negative opinion that spread like wildfire in March 2025. Whether this opinion is true or untrue, I think is subjective, but I think the opinion itself is pretty negative. And it's the overarching statement that the NYC influencers are boring.
Alright guys, I'm just gonna say it. I hate all of the New York influencers. I think that they're boring as fuck and they're all carbon copies of one another. They all wear the same exact fucking bracelets. They all have the same exact fucking hand chains that someone else influenced them to get. Yeah. They all look like they shop on Revolve. They're all just like basic ass skinny, but they're skinny and pretty, so stuff looks cute on them. But boring. No hate. They just bore the fuck out of me. Does anyone else agree? Like, I feel like they should be the influencees, not the influencers. I don't know. Not even the New York ones. Just like all the, like, these girls. They all get panic attacks. They all shop on Revolve. They all like, yeah, boring. Let me know if anyone agrees.
So this was not a case where people's opinions were slowly changed over time. This truly did happen overnight, which I think means it did resonate with a lot of people on some level. Maybe people were just ready to find something about these influencers to hate on, so when they got an opportunity to hate, they jumped on it. Like, I imagine that the category 2 haters already had a negative opinion on these people, and so of course they jumped on this immediately. Side note, I think the category 2 haters just hate everything, which is why I can safely assume that they already didn't like these girls. But I think what was different about this flip was that we had a significant amount of category 1 normal people that flipped overnight too. They saw this opinion, something about it clicked, and I really think it made them reevaluate this content that they spent a good bit of their time on TikTok watching. And so I do think part of the reason that the flip was so intense was because by someone calling these NYC influencers boring, it almost is calling the people watching the content boring as well. Another thought I have about it is that this sort of content is, I think, kind of aspirational to some people for reasons that don't actually align with who these content consumers are. It's the type of content where it might almost make you feel kind of bad about yourself. And maybe this opinion caused people to wake up and be like, whoa, what have I been watching? Like, do I really need to, be 115 pounds, live in New York in a high rise, and drink lattes and go to Pilates every day? That would be nice, but that's probably not going to happen. And because of that, it's just going to continue to make you feel bad about yourself. And I do think when you reach that level of fame where you have thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, you're always going to have some category 2 people that are hating on you. That's just a fact. You're really making your content for your category 1 loyalist. But when a new idea or piece of information like this opinion calling the influencers boring comes about and it sways your category 1 loyalist, that to me is a much bigger hit to your audience than some category 2 randos commenting hate on your profile. So, in reference to the title of this video, all of this information has led me to the conclusion that internet audiences are super fragile. Whether this flip from the positive to the negative happens slowly or seemingly overnight, I do think that these audiences' attention towards someone is fragile and fleeting. And so I think there are 2 reasons that have caused the fragility of these audiences' behavior. And the first one is that these parasocial relationships have a very superficial nature to them. Because content consumers are only getting a superficial take on a content creator's life, one piece of information can sway a content consumer away from the creator. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the nature of in-person human relationships. Let's take a friendship, for example. You and your friend rely on each other for in-person connection. And the point of you two hanging out isn't for entertainment, it's for connection. Y'all may have moments with each other where one person doesn't really like what the other person is doing, or they get annoyed, you get annoyed with each other. That's just how relationships work. But I think as long as you're like at an 80-20, 90-10 ratio of good times to bad times, then you guys are probably going to stick it out. Now, let's compare this to an online parasocial relationship that someone might have with an influencer. You don't have any stake in their life whatsoever. They are serving themselves up on a platter to a large audience, and it's clearly not as personal as a one-to-one connection with a friend. Instead, it's a 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 100,000 or 1 to millions. So it's not a mutually beneficial relationship in the same way that a friendship is. And because you subconsciously know this, you don't feel the need to keep watching them when they do something that you don't like. Your perception of that person is already superficial, so another superficial piece of negative information can easily affect that. I think that there is a lot more grace involved in friendships when compared to these parasocial relationships, and rightfully so. And the second reason that I think leads to this fragility is that content consumers have options. We've got options, y'all. If something happens where you're like, I didn't really like that, scroll, next, next in line, you can easily find someone new to capture your attention. You may be a little bit sad when your favorite content creator does something that doesn't align with your morals, but you're not that sad. I don't think anyone's ever shed any tears over realizing that their favorite content creator isn't their favorite anymore. However, going back to comparing this to a real in-person friendship, if you and your friend had a friend breakup, there would be tears shed. If your friend does do something that you don't like, you do have the option to end that friendship and have a friendship breakup. But that would most likely have a hugely negative effect on your life, just as much as theirs. It's in your best interest to try to save the friendship, have an uncomfortable conversation, hash it out, try to reach a resolution. Because if you guys ended the friendship, that would throw both y'all's lives into a tailspin. And so then on the flip side, back to your relationship with a content creator, the same version of you trying to salvage a friendship could manifest in, okay, you're going to keep watching these videos even though you don't really like that person anymore, so you don't like the videos, and so you're just forcing yourself to view entertainment when you have so many other options. That doesn't really make sense. Because you have so many readily available options, there's just really no need for that. There's really no reason to make that effort. So I started this video with talking about how negativity spreads on the internet, what that process looks like, and I ended it talking about the fragility of internet audiences. So what is the main takeaway? I think it would be silly to try to tell you to continue watching content that you don't align with anymore. I don't think there's any point in that. Like, I don't think it's on the content consumers to try to be less fragile and fleeting with their opinions. However, what I will say, and I am going to take this advice myself, try to be cognizant of which opinions are truly your own. If you started to form a negative opinion about someone or something, ask yourself, where did this come from? Is this opinion even true? Maybe do a quick fact check on yourself. Maybe try to take a closer look at that opinion and see if there's any validity in it, or was an opinion formed over time through seeing comments of category 2 haters. So let me get off my soapbox. Thank you guys for watching this video. My New Year's resolution is to be more consistent on this channel. So I'm going to really try to stick to posting every week, once a week, posting on Wednesdays. So I'm going to say confidently that I will see you guys next week, next Wednesday, and I hope you guys have a great week. See y'all later. Bye.